Former Ghanaian President, the late John Rawlings, who died last Thursday, will be remembered for leading two military coups, first in 1979, before twice being elected president in multi-party polls. A charismatic yet controversial figure, he first seized power railing against corruption and was responsible for executing army generals and former heads of state for alleged graft and mismanagement of the West African country. He was also seen as a champion of the poor, but later came to be criticized for alleged human rights abuses. In addition to the summary execution of former heads of state and military generals, hundreds of opposition figures, including outspoken journalists and independent-minded Supreme Court judges, were assassinated or they simply disappeared under his watch. Sadly, the unresolved cases are now more or less classified as part of Ghana's political folklore. Despite his long but controversial reign in one of many tributes after his passing last week, former Nigerian President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo recalled Jerry Rawlings' achievements and his personal support of the former president's non-governmental organization, the Africa Leadership Forum, when the former Nigerian leader, General Sani Abacha, jailed him in 1995. Now, joining us from Boston, Massachusetts, to discuss the life and times of the late Ghanaian president is Senator Musiliu Obanikoro, Nigeria's former High Commissioner to Ghana and a personal friend of Jerry Rawlings. But before we go to Senator Obanikoro, we'd like to show a short documentary on the late Ghanaian leader. Here it is.
From military man to elder statesman, man of the people, hero or villain. Ghana's longest-serving leader, former Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, who died on Thursday, was an influential figure for a generation and beyond. Rawlings was born in 1947 in Accra to Victoria and Ewe from Keta and James John, an expat chemist from Castle Douglas in Scotland. John refused to recognise his son, possibly a factor in many of Jerry's character traits. His mother died in September at the age of 101. At the time he burst onto the political scene, Ghana was in the throes of food shortages and a dire economic situation that had led to rampant inflation. Then Rawlings showed up with a plan to lead by example, supporting infrastructure efforts and giving speeches chastising the status quo for the corruption and failing economy. He was a charismatic and fearless speaker who was wildly popular amongst young and working-class Ghanaians. In May 1979, along with a radical underground organisation in the military called the Free Africa Movement, Rawlings launched an unsuccessful coup d'etat against the military government headed by General Fred Akufo shortly before a planned election. He was captured and sentenced to death, but his criticism of the government and his candid statements on the country's need for rapid social, political and economic change captured the mood of his peers, and he was freed by sympathisers ahead of his execution. A second coup led by Rawlings against the Akufo government succeeded within weeks. He ruled for 112 days and arranged the execution by firing squad of 8 military officers, as well as 3 former heads of state. The executions were dramatic events in Ghana's history, which had suffered few instances of political violence. Rawlings later implemented a much wider house-cleaning exercise involving the killing and abduction of over 300 Ghanaians. Elections followed, which saw a civilian government elected and headed up by Hilla Liman. But 2 years later, Rawlings led another coup on New Year's Eve 1981. Economic, social and political reforms followed. Rawlings aligned himself with world leaders who had similar politics to his own, such as Thomas Sankara and the Cuban government, whilst taking inspiration from the father of independence, Kwame Nkrumah. By 1992, Rawlings was ready to resign from the military and take up civilian politics at the head of a new party, the National Democratic Congress. He sought personal acceptance in political circles, but that never really materialised. However, under a new constitution, multi-party, multi-ethnic politics flourished. Rawlings, as the incumbent, won 2 terms in office until the end of his era in 2001. He made the decision to step aside and took part in a peaceful transition of power. Under Rawlings' leadership, Ghana moved decisively towards becoming the middle-income country it is today, unrecognisable from the shambles of the corrupt and incompetent military governments that preceded him. It's unrecognisable too from young Rawlings' own dreams of a more equal society and an African independence that Nkrumah incarnated. Jerry Rawlings was a leader that divided opinions. His critics accuse him of human rights abuses, including the execution of 3 former heads of state and army generals, as well as being accused of economic sabotage, abuse of power to amass wealth, and misuse of state funds. However, he is credited with stabilising Ghana's turbulent politics and economy in the late 1970s and leaving a legacy of democracy after 20 years. Rawlings is being remembered as one of few African statesmen who never lost touch with the common man. During his public appearances, he was often mobbed by crowds who affectionately referred to him as Papa J. The fact that he died at Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital in Ghana's capital, Accra, when African leaders of his stature typically fly abroad for urgent care, also speaks volumes to the legacy of Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings as a man of the people. Afia Adom, Arise News.
Well, joining us now from Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States, is Senator Musliu Obanikoro, Nigeria's former High Commissioner to Ghana. Senator Obanikoro, thank you very much for joining us. Well, I've seen your letter to the people and government of Ghana and the family of the late John Jerry Rawlings, former president of Ghana. Well, what kind of man was he, and what will you consider to be his most important legacy? Sorry, there's a problem with the audio there.
Let me once again, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Clearly.
Let me once again, through your medium here, extend my heartfelt condolences to the President Nana Akufo-Addo and the entire people of the Republic of Ghana. Yes, the loss of Jerry Rawlings is a colossal one, to be honest with you. There is no human being without shortcomings. But if you weigh his shortcomings vis-a-vis the positives that he made, you will agree that he was a great man. He lived a very Spartan life and austere demeanor. You see, Rawlings, as controversial as he was, remained a good example of what leadership in public position should be. Hate him or like him. No doubt in Ghana, there are Ghanaians who strongly held the view that he was a dictator, a murderer, or what have you. But if you juxtapose that with those who love him, who admired him, you will see that those are in the majority. And I make bold to say that throughout my stay in Ghana, he was singularly the most popular leader in the entire Ghana. That I can say without any fear of contradiction.
Well, in your tribute to him, you talked about how he was responsible for institutional and developmental reforms, and how he was a promoter of a democratic ethos. Do you want to comment a little bit further on that, considering the fact that some people said, well, his legacy is a mixed and controversial one?
Well, you can say it is a mixture of both, but I'm saying categorically that I will commend him for what Ghana is today. In fact,
Please unmute your system. Yes, I can hear you now.
It is appropriate to call him the father of modern Ghana. If you recall, he came in something that started like a rabble rouser, flight lieutenant, who ended up being head of state and eventually president of Ghana at a time when the country was completely down and almost out of it. If you recall the Ghana must go era, it was during the Lehman era that they had the Ghana must go, that we had the Ghana must go in Nigeria. If you recall, Ghana was so badly managed at that time that Ghanaians had to flee the country for economic survival. With Rawlings coming back, he restored Ghana's glory inherited from Kwara Nkrumah. And he did a lot. Well, some might say that maybe he was able to do that because of the military style of leadership. But he achieved that and stabilized Ghana economically before transmuting into a civilian administration. And the development didn't stop when he became the civilian president. He continued for another 8 years before his party was defeated in an election that brought in President Kufuor. So looking at that and the institutional, and let me also make reference to our own equivalent of INEC, Ghana Election Commission. You can also credit Rawlings for ensuring a free, fair, and transparent election, which is the hallmark of Ghana democracy as we speak today. So he achieved a lot. He achieved a lot. And like every human being, you will always have negatives. But I believe in this instance, his positives are far better than the negatives that people may want to remember him for.
Well, Senator Abani, Ghana has a general election on December 7th, and the former president died just about 3 weeks to that general election. The last time a president died, just a few weeks to election, was in 2012, when Professor Atta Mills died in office. And the analysis is that affected the outcome of that election. That in fact, Nana Akufo-Addo in 2012 could easily have won, but with Atta Mills' death, the pendulum changed, and hence we had John Mahama emerging as president in 2012. Do you think that the death of President Rawlings is likely to affect the dynamics of the election? President Akufo-Addo is facing 8 other contestants, but majorly the candidate of the NDC, President Rawlings' party, John Mahama.
As a close watcher of events in Ghana, I can tell you for free that before Rawlings passed away, was the common knowledge, or let me say public knowledge, that he wasn't at peace with his own party, NDC. And he didn't hide his position. He spoke openly about it. So, given that disposition, it will be very difficult, if not impossible, for the party to now turn around to benefit from his passage. And don't also forget that his wife also has her own party. She pulled out of NDC during former President John Mahama's re-election bid. She started her own party. And so if you look at that, and also the disposition of late Jerry Rawlings to his own party, then you will know that it will be difficult for the party to benefit from his passage. But having said that, In fact, some of the pronouncements that he made were more pro-MPP, which is President Nana Akufo-Addo's party, than NDC. So his own take is that his own flag bearer, being a young man, is probably, setting himself up for a successful election in 2024 rather than this coming election. But as I've said, election in Ghana is always a close call, just as you have made reference to the 2012 election that was extremely close between Nana Akufo-Addo and then the former president, John Mahama. So it's difficult to know where the pendulum will swing. But from all indications, there is a likelihood of a successful return for Nana Akufo-Addo. But in Ghana, you can't be too sure, because Ghanaians take their election very serious and they participate strongly in the election. And you hardly find electoral fraud during elections in Ghana. So given that scenario, your guess is as good as mine. But of course, in all elections, the incumbent always have an advantage.
Well, Senator Banikoro, clearly there is very close relationship between Nigeria and Ghana in every area, whether it's trade or it is culture or it is tourism or it's even just migration or military cooperation. And many Nigerians have been talking about the late President Rawlings. I cited the example of President Obasanjo issuing a statement describing him as a great African, a good friend and an ally who even supported his non-governmental organization directly. And then people have also talked about how he was a very good friend of General Sani Abacha. And of course, you know, when President Babangida was in office, he visited Nigeria, and there was that big reception for him. But are there lessons that other African leaders can learn from his example? And I ask that because, you know, many Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians, they talk about the Jerry Rawlings treatment, which they thought if Nigeria had emulated that could have changed the course of Nigerian history.
Let me say one thing. I had one very intimate interaction with him that I will want to share with you. I called him. I usually call him to just say hello. And he said, Ambassador. I said, sir. I said, where are you? I said, I'm at home. He said, I should come. Then I went to him. And he sat me down and he said, we Nigerians, that we are a disappointment to black race. That there is no doubt in his mind that we have the resources, both human and materials, to lead black race to where we should be. But our leaders, I'm quoting him now. He said, but our leaders are more interested in themselves rather than public good. And I tried to convince him to the contrary. He said, no. He said, look at where we are in Ghana today. He said, Nigeria should be 10 times ahead of Ghana. That was then in 2012 or 2013. He said, we should have been 10 times ahead of Ghana. So that disappointment was expressed in a manner that I also felt small. And he mentioned some names which I cannot mention to you now on television. And in fairness to him, if you look at the human and material resources at our disposal, there is no doubt that he was speaking the truth. And let me also tell you one thing that Rawlings did effectively throughout his lifetime outside office. He became the voice of an average Ghanaian and the conscience of the nation. Regardless of which party, whether it was his party or the other party, Rawlings spoke out on policies that he saw as detrimental to the interest of Ghanaians. And he was someone that became, towards the tail end of his life, became very sensitive to Nigerian issues. And he didn't understand why Ghana and Nigeria couldn't operate the way UK. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Understand why Ghana and Nigeria couldn't operate at the level that UK and United States operate. And let me also say that he was also of the view that if we had gotten our act together as a country, the influence of Nigeria around the world would have been far stronger than it is and would have helped the cause of black race.
Very quickly, Ambassador Banikuru, let me take advantage of the fact that we're discussing President Rawlings to ask you this. Trade has been a major issue between Nigeria and Ghana. What do we need to do to remove the barriers? You'll recall that recently in Ghana, Nigerian traders in Ghana have had issues with Ghanaian Traders Association there. Our Minister of Foreign Affairs and his counterpart in Ghana, they've been talking back and forth. The Ghanaians are saying, oh, because our borders have been shut down, it's affecting trade and affecting Ghanaian traders. Hence, they had to take reciprocal action. What do you think we need to do in this regard?
Dr. Abati, let me be frank about this. You see, diplomacy, international diplomacy works when you are strong at home. It's charity, they say, begins at home. If your country is stable and doing well, you'll be strong abroad. A good example is what President Trump is doing to America now. It's going to be tough for America to stand up against dictators around the globe as they used to. Because if you cannot practice democracy at home, it's difficult for you to preach it abroad. Whether you like it or not, it has weakened the American position when it comes to democratic norms. The same thing in Nigeria. We have our economy that has gone south, and you have Nigerians fleeing the country in droves, looking for greener pastures all over the world. With that development, Ghana is feeling threatened. And I'm being honest with you. They are feeling threatened that if they liberalize their economy to accommodate Nigeria, we will run them out of their own system. And with that kind of threat, you cannot dismiss it. I'm being honest with you. You can't dismiss it. There is need to stabilize our own economy and stop the bleeding. If we stop the bleeding, our respect outside our country will improve, And with that improvement, people will want to associate more with us. And with that association, it's now easier to encourage and propagate policies that will be friendly to our own citizens. You see, the first step, I'm being honest with you, no matter how you want to skin this, if someone is feeling threatened, it's difficult for the person to honestly sit down with you and negotiate anything reasonable. And that is the truth. So, but that is not to say that we should fold our hands and not engage. We must continue to engage while we are struggling to get the economy back on track. I have said it before and I will repeat myself again. It is important for us to wait till after the election before we resume this negotiation. Because no Ghanaian president or a presidential candidate will sit down with us at this point in time, given the history of close election in Ghana. And I'm sure if you look at the public opinion in Ghana now, it's going to be also very close in terms of where the pendulum will swing. So, given that scenario, it is important for us to get prepared by December, after the election, resume conversation with Ghana, and then do those things. There are some of these things that we have done in the past that we can revisit, such as Ghana-Nigeria Joint Commission. We were working on bringing in Benin Republic and Togo at some point, but we didn't get to that. But let's start with Ghana, then we can improve.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Obanikoro, for joining us on THISDAY Live, the Sunday talk show, and for your insights on the late President John Jerry Rawlings of Ghana. Thank you very much indeed. The program will continue.
So, Abati, always a pleasure to be with you. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
And God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you. Thank you very much.